So there's a story that went viral recently. Mayor Pete has been out on paid family leave as transportation secretary for 2 months. Apparently, he didn't tell many people he was doing it. He just kind of did it. And the other part of this that people are talking about is there's a supply chain crisis right now. And apparently the transportation secretary is involved in one way or another in trying to fix that. And so people are saying, well, this is kind of ridiculous. You left in the middle of a supply chain crisis. You didn't tell many people, and you've been gone for 2 months. So this was a bit of a scandal. The hosts on The View talked about it, but what they did here is they went after Tucker Carlson because Tucker Carlson on Fox News did a segment where he was really critical of Mayor Pete for doing this, and he said some things that they think are really fucked up. Let's watch, and then I'll give you my breakdown.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is finding out firsthand how hard it is to be a working parent in America. He's being criticized for taking time off to care for his newborn twins rather than concentrating on the infrastructure bill and supply chain crisis, which I saw him addressing just the other day, didn't you? He was on. Yeah. He was just on the thing, and of course a rather insecure Tucker Carlson couldn't resist going full bigot about the whole issue last night. Watch.
Pete Buttigieg has been on leave from his job since August after adopting a child. Paternity leave, they call it, trying to figure out how to breastfeed. No word on how that went. But now he's back in office as the transportation secretary, and he's deeply amused, he says, to see that dozens of container ships can't get into this country.
You know, I mean, he's mocking what? His manliness? What is he mocking there?
He's mocking everyone equally. He's mocking women. He's mocking men. I mean,
he's an equal opportunity bigot.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he doesn't know much about breastfeeding because he came out of a robot.
That could be
that could explain his lack of heart.
I am really glad that Secretary Pete is taking maternity leave, because I think that this says to other men, you can take time off. Men actually have to take time off. Your significant other needs help. You need help. Men get stressed. So I think it's great. I don't think Tucker Carlson didn't say anything about Jesse Waters on Fox. He took paternity leave this year. He said he used to mock people. He took paternity leave. Todd Pirro from Fox and Friends. He took 6 weeks leave. So he's not mocking anybody on his network.
No, that's true.
Well, the problem here, as women have climbed the ranks over the decades long, the reason women can't quite catch up is when someone goes to hire you and you might be of childbearing years, they can't ask you, but they can assume you're going to be a more expensive person to hire. If you have 2 people, the man's going to be better because he's not going to leave. You're not going to be paying for all that time. So if we had mandatory family leave, that would equalize the playing field. And by the way, get away from the emotions of why that's important. There are a lot of non-traditional families. There are families that adopt. There are gay couples who also adopt. There are people that use surrogates. That's bonding time. We talk about the start of a child's life and how they feel either attached or dependent. There's so many psychological things traced back to those early times. If you get a C-section, you can't lift your own baby for 4 to 6 weeks. It was never natural to be at home with a baby by yourself or even with one person. Well, it used to be families of generations that would raise a child.
That's why Hillary Clinton famously said it takes a village. But interesting statistic, parents in Sweden are entitled to 480 days of paid parental leave.
Yeah.
Okay,
480 days.
Yes. Over a year.
Over a year.
But usually it's each parent is entitled to 240 of those days. So they give some of it to the father and some to the mother.
So I have a lot to say about this. So I will say about Mayor Pete that at least on this front, he is not a hypocrite. He is on the side of paid family leave for everybody. So it's not like he's getting it, but he wants to keep it from you. Now, if he was some Republican who's not for family leave and he takes it, but he wants to keep it from you, that would be an extra layer of fucked up, in my opinion. Now, do I think this situation is maybe a little more complicated given how important the job nominally is and what's going on in the country? I must admit I do. Now, we absolutely should have paid family leave. Somebody even floated on the panel mandatory paid family leave. I might even be on board with that. And I didn't even know that in Sweden there were 400 days of paid parental leave and, you split it between the mother and the father or whatever. I didn't know that. But that gives you a sense of what it's like in other developed countries. In this country, we don't have paid family leave. We don't have paid vacation time by law. We don't have any of the stuff that other developed countries have. That's one of the charts that I've showed on this show time and time again is paid vacation time by law, or even just paid time off by law. Every other developed country has a lot of paid time off by law, and we have zero, none, nothing. We're way behind everybody else on this. So let me state unequivocally up front, this is one of the issues I care deeply about, because I think Americans are totally overworked, stressed, anxious, depressed, and one of the reasons is we have a terrible work-life balance where everybody's working, and then you die. Yeah, well, you're going to be miserable if that's the case, unless you get real unique fulfillment out of your specific job, and the overwhelming majority of people don't. They're just sort of paying the bills with their job. So everybody should get paid family leave. I think that's a no-brainer, and we should be pushing for that relentlessly. But the nuances matter. So I made a joke when I first saw this story. I was like, I'm going to run for president, win, and then on day one, take 2 months of paid family leave. Now you hear that and you go, well, that'd be fucking ridiculous, Kyle, wouldn't it? Yeah. Are there some jobs, namely if you are running the fucking country, that maybe the situation changes a little bit and it's more complicated? Yeah, it is. And I don't think we do ourselves any favors by denying that nuance. So in the case of Pete, look, I have no problem with him taking the paid family leave. I just think the timing is terrible. The timing is in the middle of a supply chain crisis when the transportation secretary is involved with that crisis. By the way, to be clear, I actually don't really know how much the transportation secretary does. Seems kind of like a bullshit job for the most part. But if they do anything, they probably do something with infrastructure, which we're currently trying to get the infrastructure bills passed. And they do stuff with the supply chain that would sort of be in his wheelhouse. So I guess my main criticism is the timing should have been better, and perhaps you should have done it not right when we're in the smack dab center of a supply chain crisis. But having said that, yeah, I don't want the conversation to be hijacked by people who are just flat out against paid family leave. And also, I think it is fucked up to paint it, specifically when it comes to a gay couple, as like, this is the time where you think it's nefarious and you think it's questionable and you think you shouldn't be allowed to do it. If it was a man and a woman, would people be reacting like that? I don't know. But they make the point, Tucker ignored when Jesse Waters took paid paternity leave. He didn't go after Jesse Waters for that. He didn't go after some other Fox News host who they cited there who took paid paternity leave. And yeah, I mean, Tucker also didn't criticize his own network for the vaccine mandate. He's going after Biden for the soft mandate of 100 employees or more. For a business, you have to either vaccinate or get tested. He's pretending it's a hard mandate, and he's against the mandate, but there's a vaccine mandate at Fox News. And I think he actually lied about it, too, after the fact. We're like, no, there's not. Yes, there is. So, classic Tucker, like, only pointing his criticism in a specific direction to fit partisan political ends. But I also do think it is fair to say, though, that for a Fox host or for an MSNBC host or CNN host or any other kind of host, yeah, that's not as crucial a job as maybe transportation secretary is during the infrastructure bill discussion and debate and negotiation and during the supply chain crisis. So Mayor Pete should be able to take the paid family leave. Anybody should be able to take the paid family leave, but the timing is bad. And also, I do think it's fair to say there's a very tiny number of jobs that are so important that maybe you should make your own decision that I can't actually do that. Like, I don't think, like the president, for example, should the president get paid family leave? I think if you're president of the United States, you really don't have a day off. I mean, maybe you take 1 day a week or 2 days a week, but the idea that you could take like a whole week off at a time or months, I don't think I like that idea, and I wouldn't like it if it was a Republican or a Democrat, because I think that job is so important and so unique that, and you are the leader, that when you're at the top, you don't get a day off. Like, you just can't. It's the nature of what you signed up for there. You know what I mean? Whereas I would argue with 95% to 99% of jobs, you should get paid family leave, and it should be guaranteed, and maybe it should even be mandatory. And Pete responded to this too, by the way, and said, it's not actually time off. Like, it's work. Like, you're working. It's joyous work, and, you know, you're building a bond with family members and stuff like that, so that's important, but it is work, and that is definitely true. I mean, it's a super difficult job if you're raising kids. Like, there's a lot that goes into that, and talk about, that's another area where it feels like you don't get any time off at all, you know what I mean? So, that fact about Sweden was mind-blowing, and it gives you a sense of just how off-base we are in this country when it comes to that, when it comes to paid family leave. I also agree with the point that in the past, it was like generations of a family that would raise a child, and now it seems like it's not like that as much, and so people are sort of struggling to dot the I's and cross the T's and get by. But yeah, that's my overall takeaway. We need a law for paid family leave in this country, for sure. We got to get that through. We got to get that done. It's colossally important. Having said that, with the case of Pete or anybody who's in that like 1% of jobs that are just so important, just make the timing better, bro. Just make the timing better. It seems like a crucial time for you to not be out of your position when we got the infrastructure negotiation and the supply chain issues. But you know what? Ultimately, maybe I'm wrong, because maybe the transportation secretary really does absolutely Dickie McGee's axe, in which case it's like, whatever, take all the time off in the world, you know? Anyway, that's my breakdown of it. The View is not a fan of Tucker, and they are defending Mayor Pete pretty aggressively here.